Well folks, another episode of Whitebeard's Kitchen. What I'm going to do today is a BIR, British Indian Restaurant based gravy. This can be used for lots of different curries like tikka masala, korma, Madras, etc. I haven't done this before, so it's a bit of a test for me, so I'm kind of using other people's who've inspired me, the likes of Latif's inspired, Shamsa, and just logged into a new guy called Al's Kitchen. These three guys, definitely you have to watch, so but I'm going to do my version, which will be kind of maybe a slight mix of theirs. So folks, for the base gravy, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I want to show you a bit of a garam masala, which I make in hot water. So over here, what I have is a few bay leaves. I have a couple of black cardamon pods, just cracked them. I have about 3. I have about 4 green cardamon pods, again I've just cracked those. I have about 8 cloves. I also have 1 star anise. I have roughly about 3/4 teaspoon of fennel seeds, and I have 1 piece of cassia bark or cinnamon stick, whichever you want to call it. So that will go into the pot of water that I have beside me, and I'll bring that to a boil and let it boil down and reduce it. What will go into the base gravy will be, I have here in pestle and mortar, I have a mixture, it's a paste of garlic and ginger. So I put in maybe 3 to 4 teaspoons of this into the base gravy. I'll add roughly, I've got 4 small carrots, or if you want, you can have 2 large. I have 2 large white onions, and I have some red and green pepper, which will go into make up the base gravy. So without further ado, we'll get cracking. I'm going to put in the bay leaves, about 2 to 3 bay leaves, and these are wee tiny bits that I have in. The cloves, there we are, those can go in. And what I've done is I have just scraped that into the pot of cold water, which I'm going to start to bring to the boil. So I'm using roughly about 3/4 teaspoon of Kashmiri Chilli Powder, 2 teaspoons of turmeric powder, 2 teaspoons of coriander powder, half a teaspoon of Garam Masala, half a teaspoon of cumin. I would have used maybe 2 teaspoons of regular curry powder. I don't have regular curry powder. What I actually do have is Madras curry powder, so I've cut it down to 1 because it's obviously a bit hotter and I don't want this too hot, to be honest. And I also have in here roughly about a teaspoon of paprika. So that's all the spices that will go into that, along with the garam masala and obviously the lovely ginger and onion paste. So folks, what I have in here is 4 tablespoons, maybe 5 tablespoonfuls of vegetable oil. I have it on a high heat. So now what I'm going to do is add the garlic paste. I'm going to add roughly 4 in. There's 3 very big teaspoons. What you want to do is, you don't want this to burn, so what I want to do is keep an eye on it, stir it round, and if you can hear me over the din, unfortunately, of this, so I can see that the smell of the garlic and ginger paste that I made, and basically all that was some grated garlic and ginger, and I just tiny pounded it a little bit, so keep that going. I can smell that now. What you don't want to do is let this burn by any means, so keep an eye on the heat. I'm going to put it just up to kind of medium high, so get that in. What I want to do is now add in some of those dried spices that I had earlier, which is the cumin powder, the chili powder, turmeric powder, garam masala, the paprika, the curry powder, and the coriander powder. Add those in. Again, just be very careful. You want to keep an eye on this because you don't want your spices to burn. This is really only to liven them up a little bit. Okay, get that in. and you can use just a wee taste of water just to make sure that it doesn't burn. So I'm just going to add a tiny taste there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to eyeball this, stir this around, and you can really see those spices, I hope, they're getting that lovely reddy orangey colour, and that's from the turmeric, which is quite earthy, the paprika, and the chili powder that I used as well. I've extra hot and Kashmiri chilli powder, so I use the Kashmiri, and there is a slight smoky taste of it. So what I'm going to do is eyeball roughly about 3 teaspoons of tomato puree. So it says 1 that's been in already, and 2, 3. That's fine. Give that a bit of a whirl around. Stir around again, keeping an eye on it. I can really smell those spices now starting to come through. Hopefully you can see into this pot. Okay. So just going to leave that for a second or two. Just going to add in another little taste of water. Okay. And that's absolutely lovely. We'll just turn it up just a slightly bit. Trying to reduce it, but at the same time, I don't want the spices to burn. I don't know whether you can see just at the back here, bubbling away, is what I talked about earlier, was the Garam Masala, which is the sweet star anise, the 3 black cardamon pods, the 4 green cardamon pods, the bay leaves, the cloves, those are in there, as well as the cassia bark, and those are doing their job. I'm going to let that obviously reduce. What I will do at some stage later will be I'll drain this, the Garam Masala at the back, and add this into the water from it, because it will be lovely flavoured, lovely scent from it, from the different spices that are in that, the cardamom and the cinnamon, the cloves, the bay leaf. You can see that's bubbling away now at the back. Just going to turn it down a wee bit, but keep it bubbling because I do want to reduce it. I'm now going to put in the onion very carefully, all being well. The onion, and as you can see, you don't need to slice this. It can be in chunks, because this will probably take about an hour. And at the end of the hour, I'm hoping that the onions, the carrots, the peppers will all be very, very soft. There'll be some liquid. Obviously you'll need to add bits of water time to time, and I'll check this probably from time to time, also every 10 minutes or so, to make sure that it's not sticking to the pot and burning only. That's the last thing I want to do. This is my first attempt at an Indian based gravy. As I say, this quickens up, does quicken up the curry process. If you're making, rather than making things you're totally from scratch, yes, you'll add in all the spices for your chicken tikka masalas, your Madras, your baltis, maybe if you're going to use it. Not again, I could be wrong about the balti, so for those Indian cooks out there, please don't quote me on that, but those type of dishes that we all know from the Indian restaurants, this base gravy, all the spices are added, the meats are cooked all very quickly, and this is why you get the quick turnaround, because a couple of ladles of this, it's a very subtle, should be a very subtle flavour, it shouldn't be overpowering. So what I'm going to do is now, I'm going to add in, what I'm going to say is roughly about a cup of water on this, maybe a cup and a half. I'm going to turn it up, bring it up to the boil, put the lid on, and I will come back and check this in roughly about 10 minutes. Sorry for the din, so playing the drums, good old rock star, and maybe as you've seen today, I do have a very colourful t-shirt on, surprise, surprise. They're not my favourite group, but it's Black Sabbath again. So folks, hopefully you can see in the pot here, I'm just giving this a little bit of a stir, and I see it's bubbling away, which is great. I have it on a high heat. slowly but surely things will get softer. I'm just going to give it a bit of a stir, just so that I'll scrape the bottom and round to the sides, just to make sure that there's nothing sticks to it. At the back, I'm going to have to use a cloth because the pot is quite hot. You can see the colour of that water. This is all those lovely spices that we talked about, the star anise, the fennel seed, the cardamon pods, both the green and the black cardamon pods, and the cloves and the cinnamon bark. So just going to put this back again, let it reduce down a little bit more. Once this has reduced a little bit more, I'll strain this off the pot at the back with the cardamom pods, etc., the Garam Masala as it's called. I will strain that off so that those little hard star anise cardamom pods themselves, the husks don't go in, and just add the water, the flavoured water in. And hopefully this will turn out. I'm looking forward to see how this turns. This is my first attempt. So, lid back on, and I'll see you maybe in another 10 minutes or so, or 15. That, I think, was maybe about 15 minutes since the last. So folks, we're back. I just have caught this little baby in time. Things are doing nicely at the front. So I'm just going to reduce the heat for a few minutes, give it a good stir. I've now turned the Garam Masala off at the back. So I'm going to just now put on to a medium heat. I'm just going to strain the water, the Garam Masala water, off into what will be hopefully a really good base gravy. Okay, I'm now going to turn this up to a medium to high heat. Just give it a stir, scrape anything off along the sides. That's all flavour. My goodness, nothing has stuck. Maybe put it up onto a high heat, sorry, for maybe 10 minutes with the lid on. And let this cook away. Probably about an hour or 15 minutes this process. What I'm going to do, because I'm going to do some other cooking, I'm going to put this onto the back ring. I'm making these guys a spaghetti bolognese this evening, my own, not out of a jar. And for me, I'm going to do a chili for one. I might show you that. Well folks, just checking in again. The vegetables are beginning to soften down. Just want to give it another bit of a stir. And wonderful smells from this, I have to be honest. Though all those spices, you know, the dried spices, the Garam Masala spices, everything is working a treat. Just checking. Carrots will be the thing that will tell the tale. What I might do is just add another wee small taste of water to this and let it continue cooking away. Just maybe quarter of a cup of water. Get the lid back on again. Well, these lids are hot. And let this boil away. I'm going to put it up to a high heat now and just keep a wee eye on it. So folks, just checked in again with the mix of peppers and onion and carrot and all those wonderful spices. It's doing nicely. Just added another wee taste of water, and the carrots are still a wee bit on the hard side. So once those have softened, then I'll know that it'll be ready, what do you call it, to blitz. I will do it in a food processor. Haven't got a hand blender. I could borrow my better halves, but unfortunately she uses hers for her little soap business, and I thought I'd maybe give it a plug. So please go to amysearth.com. At the minute, fantastic, there's a sale, 35% off of candles and lovely wonderful soaps, all vegan. So get yourself a bargain, get down there folks before January finishes. I'll be back shortly to check on the base gravy, so see you shortly. Well folks, just if you can see, everything is nice and soft. Still a bit of liquid left by the time I blitz this up. Hopefully I won't need to add water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this to my food processor. All the vegetables seem to be pretty soft. They've all come together, everything is softened down. The peppers, the carrots, the onion. What I forgot to mention earlier was that for something about for the vegetables and stuff that I have used, I've used about maybe 2 teaspoons of salt. Don't want to make it too salty because this is a base gravy. Will be used in curries, rather under salted rather than over salted. Once salted, you can't take anything out, as the old saying goes. Absolutely looks wonderful, smells absolutely fantastic. The aromas are super. Everything is well softened. The carrots, I know, look like lumps, but they're quite soft. There we are, breaking up easy. Food processor will do the rest. Fingers crossed, first time I've tried this, so I'd love to see how it goes when I use it for curries. Well folks, it's been blitzed. There is no lumps, which is good. It's still a bit on the thick side. I'm just going to add some water to this. Okay, maybe about a cup. See how that goes. Give that a mix round. Maybe add just another tiny wee bit. Okay, we'll call it a cup and a half. Could potentially go to 2 cups, but what we want is like a custard consistency. I'm going to add 250 mils of cream to this. The important thing here is I'm going to put this back onto, yeah, that's kind of the colour that we're kind of looking. I'm going to put this back onto the stove and bring it to a boil, which will allow me, because with the cream in it, it will allow it to be frozen or sit in the refrigerator. What you don't want is for this to be sitting just in a pot. Obviously, once I bring it to it will kill any bacteria maybe in the cream that's there. That's what we're looking, kind of sticking to the back of the spoon, but not overly runny. I'm going to do the dirty thing that I normally do, but I won't put the spoon back in. Well, we'll give it another stir if you don't believe me. I'm going to taste this. Okay. Absolutely lovely. I thought it was going to be a bit spicy. There's just a tiny wee small kick, which is what you're looking. Get all that lovely cream in. Now back to the stove top. And basically once I heat this, bring it to the boil again and then let it cool. This is the finished product. So this is my first BIR, British Indian restaurant base gravy. So when I'm making things like a korma, I can cook my chicken, add my spices, and maybe depending on how many people. And this, what I have done, should probably serve about 8 people. So there's 4 of us in the household, so if I make a curry at some point, and obviously you'll add maybe other condiments and well, I should say spices and things into your kormas, your masalas, you know, all the type of things that we know. You can make, and I've done it before, I can make my curries from scratch without using this, but I've seen so many of the Indian chefs using this, and this is what they would have in the Indian restaurants that we're all familiar with, both in the UK and Ireland. So, without further ado, I'm going to say, rock on, this is good, do try it, not that expensive to make, and also it will quicken up your curries those nights that you want to make one from scratch because you have your base gravy. Take it easy, see you all soon, bye for now, rock on.